May 31st, 2023. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart on the NinjaTrader 8 platform. You can look down at the descriptions below. You can see the timestamps of where I thought I saw trades, as well as where I took my trades. I took a total of 6 trades today. There were 2 losers and 4 winners. The first 2 trades were actually where I got my 2 losses, which was kind of, well, it kind of was kind of stunk, but I managed to recover and find 4 more trades. Overall, the market sentiment was kind of a sell-off in the pre-market. You can see you weren't sure if it was in a trading range because I drew the highs and lows of the pre-market here and here, and you weren't really 100% sure if it was going to be in the big wide trading range, but it ends up being a sell-off, and then there's a consolidation at the bottom, and then another move back up. So even though this big trend channel was drawn, I didn't really use it to take any trades off of because there weren't enough confirmations. But there were smaller trading channels that I found that I used as a basis of looking for setups and trades. So I'm gonna go ahead and also I want to just point out that there wasn't any economic data that came out today except for the JOLTS Job Opening report that came out at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard, which is about right here. And as you can see, it didn't really cause the market to whipsaw any which way. Maybe just really close by, but otherwise it didn't have a big knee-jerk reaction like a typical FOMC meeting would have, or any other kind of big economic data like inflation. So I'm going to go through the trades right now. In the beginning of the day, there weren't very many trades I could find, and this is the pre-market. So when the market opened, the first trade I did see was a new high here. It's a first entry long, followed by a second entry long. Now, when I saw this, I wasn't sure this was actual trading range yet. I just thought there was some kind of support down here. And then I arbitrarily put my top resistance up here. So it's too early to determine that there was actually in a trading range or not. And did make 2 legs down. The problem with the second entry long is it's a bad signal bar and it's below the EMA. And it is bouncing off this pre-market low, but it just barely touched. So there's not enough price action for me to feel strongly that it was a good setup. So I skipped it. Then prices continue moving up and down. I mean, as with a lot of these days, I've noticed there's there's second entries all over the place, but to find a good one, you want it off a key entry point, off the EMA, off the bottom or the top of a trading range, or off at least some kind of trend channel. So you could mark all kinds of second entries all over the place, but I didn't want to do that unless it was actually a decent setup or something that I felt confident in for one reason or another. It can't just be, well, they made a second entry. So here, we're going to see a new high here. First entry, second entry. Again, this isn't a good setup because this is below the EMA and it's a very doji-ish looking candle, not super doji, and it's also in the middle of this trading range that I've established. So as prices continue to move, I'm just kind of sitting on my hands. Prices go down. I do establish this trading range as being possibly the actual trading range. It has a breakout here, but it dwells a little bit too long outside. So I don't know if this is a valid trading range anymore. It's kind of doing its own thing. So I draw this other pink or orangey looking trading range. I don't see a good setup here, or at least one that I'm comfortable with. I did see this new high here, first entry long, second entry long. It's a pretty good signal bar. The unfortunate thing is it's below the EMA. It feels like it's counter trend now because overall the sentiment right now is it was in this trading range, but it was a bearish bias. So it's not making its way back up to the top. And I just want to point out that this big green channel hasn't been established by me yet. It's later in the day that I found it, but as I said, it didn't really help to set up any real trades. So as I said, this one wasn't a setup that I thought was worth taking because it made a new low. You could say it's a failed breakout of this trading range. This trading range isn't super clean yet, so I don't trust it. But it turns out if you had taken it, it would have worked at least for a point or two scalp. Then it came back down. Anything more than a point or two, and you would have gotten stopped out. Prices continue chopping down. It's respecting the EMA and is staying well below. So unfortunately, I wasn't on anything that I could just keep riding this down because you're seeing very tiny candles, which is indicating it's a very strong trend, at least to the bearish side. Almost comes up to touch the EMA, keeps making new lows. Doesn't offer really any second entries except right here. but it's far from the EMA. It's not a good setup. Prices continue moving down. Now it kind of bounces. It looks like there's a consolidation down here. Goes up. And I draw this as a potential trading range. I actually had it slightly lower at one point right there, and I thought this might have been an overshoot. Comes down, and I'm seeing within this trading range, there seems to be some kind of like another support being held right here, but I don't see a setup. There's a new high here, first entry long, second entry long, and there's a failure. This failure, it might have been worth taking. I was kind of going back and forth, but it felt like there was a support here that might have been, I was thinking might be strong enough to be, maybe it's in its own little sub trading range, so it might be a failed breakout and come right back in. So I saw it, but I didn't want to take this trade. Comes back up. And here I do establish this trend channel going down because I have one touch, two touch, almost a third touch, but it's definitely a third touch here. And then I have two touches down here. But since the overall bias is bearish, I'm only looking to short. I'm not looking to go long. So what really matters in this trend channel is this upper line. Prices continue moving down. Chop sideways. So here's my trading range, and I'm thinking maybe it's slightly bigger. It's about right there. This orange one doesn't come into existence yet. Comes up, touches the top. Let's just adjust this. Keeps going. It breaks out through the top. So this sub trading range, let me just kind of fix it. It's kind of annoying me. Bring this back down to about right here and bring this up about right there. So I saw a breakout of this orange trading range, and there's a potential fail breakout here. I saw this as a new high, first entry long, and then I see this as a second entry long, and I'm thinking it was a second entry long failure because overall trend is going down. So I get my order ready. I saw it come down. It gives me more confidence as an actual second entry long failure. Here it closed below the EMA, so I take my entry right here, one tick below this original signal bar, which is right here. It closed below the EMA. Prices are just coming back from an overshoot, so I'm thinking it wants to make its way back down here because I definitely want to take a second entry long, thinking it's going to bounce back up, and it closed below the EMA. I'm thinking it's coming back down to this orange line here, or this orange chat, or the bottom of this orange trading range, and potentially down to this bottom of this yellow trading range. So I take an entry here, flashes up and takes me out. But just like that, I think within a minute or so, actually it's less than a minute, I lost on this trade. So that was kind of pretty sucky. And I just look back and I'm thinking, where did I go wrong? And I wasn't 100% sure, except for maybe this is the midline. And so I don't know if other than just experience, I don't know if I maybe shouldn't have just taken this trade just based on context or whatnot. But at the time, I thought it was worthwhile trade. Perhaps the signal bars could have been a little bit better, but fortunately, yeah, this went down and flashed up and took me out. So that's my first trade of the day. This is the second trade of the day. So second trade of the day, I saw that it made one leg down, pulls back, and it's making a second leg. So I saw this as a completion of the measured move. It's down at the bottom of this trading range. Not only did it come down, it flashed down to be pretty much almost touching the bottom. So I was thinking on a visual second entry long. So it's one leg down, pull back, second leg down, and potentially another move back up because I'm thinking it made the measure move, downtrend might have played out. There might be enough juice to get back to the trading EMA. So I take my entry one tick above right here. It chops around. It makes it all the way to the top, and it actually makes it just one tick. It ticks right to my order, which was 6 ticks, but it didn't pass through. So my order was never picked up, unfortunately. Then it went down, and I have my stop down here. It keeps chopping around. I'm thinking I might survive, but at this point I can see that the trend is still going down. It's probably going to hit the bottom of this yellow line. So I didn't want to move my stop from one tick below here all the way down to the yellow. And I pretty much knew at that point I was faked out and I was wrong. So here's where I got taken out right here, one tick below. And so, this lack of experience and just reading this as a visual second entry long wasn't correct. So I just had to lick my wounds. Two trades, two first trades, and they're both red. I did see a hidden second entry short here, a new low here. First entry short made on this candle. Then as you notice on this red candle, it moves up, then it comes right back down. So it made actually a second entry short. So if I were to take this trade, I would have put it one tick below right here, and it closed below the EMA. It's rejected off this descending trend channel. So this might have been a trade, might have been worth taking. Looks like it would have worked out, flashed down. Prices continue moving. It chops, comes up, touches, and confirms this trend channel again. But this time it breaks up above. So I see this bottom line support forming. So it touches 1, 2, 3 touches, goes up, comes back down. And this is where I actually take my third trade of the day. Right here, I see this as potentially, so this is a new high right here, and it makes another new high, but same high. So I counted this as one grouping, first entry long, and I see a potential second entry long here. I like that this is a strong signal bar, and it tried to go down 2 times already. So it's made a new low, try to push down once, try to push down twice. It's also bouncing off this potential ascending trend channel. So it's like a triple test here, second entry long. And it also closed above the EMA. So I do know it's running into the midline of potentially this trading range. And also if you extended this guy out, it's also getting to the mid range here. But I thought this was a pretty strong setup because it almost took back the entire red candle here. So I entered one tick above right here. And then I was able to get out right at the top. I ran it a little bit longer than just my usual 1 point. And it looks like if I went for 2, it would have worked. But I wanted to make sure I got out before I hit the top of this trend channel because I actually had a little bit lower here. So I want to make sure I got scalped out before I hit the top. Price is coming back down. So this is my first screen trade out of 3 trades. Prices move up. I do see a second entry short. This is a new low here. First entry short, second entry short. The problem with the second entry short, it is at the high of this trading range. So that's good because you'd be selling at the high. But I was also thinking, because at one time I was thinking maybe this trading range might have been actually down here. So it could also be a failed breakout. So that's the second potential key entry point factoring for this. The signal bar wasn't that great though. So I wasn't too crazy about the signal bar. And I just got out of this trade. So I was just a little bit happy and just kind of making sure I wasn't being too eager to take another trade so soon after I got my first green trade. So then it goes back down, came down, breaks through the other side after this overshoot. You see a new high, first entry long, second entry long, but this is a terrible signal bar. Prices continue shopping. It goes into this new trading range that I found. It looks like it's respecting it, but now it's breaking out. I'm thinking it might have a failed breakout. If it makes it up to this top trading range, then I'm thinking it might come back down. If it doesn't make it, it starts coming back down. So you could say it's a first entry short, but then it flashes up. So no trade there, and that's okay. It makes a potential failed breakout here, but there's no setup here. You could say it's a new low, first entry short, second entry short. So this technically is a second entry short failed breakout, but it made 3 pushes up, and I didn't know that I was going to make this big push back down. So after this candle forms, then you're thinking, okay, maybe it's going back into the range. So to be safe, I was thinking I'd put my entry right here. But as you can see, it never comes back for you. And by the time it makes these candles, it's too late to chase this trade. Price is continuing up. This is where I take my 4th trade of the day. I saw a new low here, first entry short, second entry short, but a potential second entry short failure because the second entry short formed above the EMA. And even though it's in this trading range, also within this bigger overlapping trading range, it's near the top, but what I'm noticing is prices are consolidating here. And they seem to be playing on the higher part of this trading range. So it's kind of a bullish bias at this point. Yes, it came down, but it didn't touch the bottom. It came back up. So I'm thinking there could be a potential second entry short failure. I'll admit this is kind of aggressive because I entered on this next candle, but this next candle never broke above this candle signal bar. So that was a little bit, I jumped the gun a little early. And even though I jumped it early, I thought, well, EMA is holding. And this is the first channel that I drew. Actually, the first channel I drew was actually right here. it's kind of busy right now, but you can see this green channel here is the first break, and I'm thinking it might at least go push back up to make this high when I saw this candle. So when I entered here early, I almost started to regret, just being early. And I think in hindsight, this is probably a riskier trade. I should have just skipped it because this wasn't a clean setup that was ready or even clear. But I was in the trade and I was lucky to ride it up, and I just kind of dragged my stop one tick below each subsequent candle, and I was able to get out. It's hard to see, but there's a magenta arrow right here, one tick below this guy. So it turned out to be a profitable trade, but this wasn't based upon a good chart read. This is more a dumb luck. So I know that for sure, and I made notes to myself. I want to try to avoid those trades because those are just, end up biting me in the end. There's a lot of consolidation congestion here. I saw a second entry long here. So depending on how you did the count, I just counted this as one high, first entry long, second entry long. However, if you count this as a new high and you said this is the first entry long, even though it made a double top and this is a second entry long, you could consider this as a higher low. But I consider it a second entry long. It's far from the EMA though, but it is a good signal bar, and it could be considered a higher low. I saw that, but I wasn't sure. So I just wanted to wait to see if there's a confirmation setup. And I do see this higher low form right here, because if you count this as the new high, first entry long, second entry long, and there's a higher low right here. It's also a failed second entry short potentially. It's a new low here, first entry short, second entry short. Now this second entry short's form hasn't failed yet, but it looks like it's about to. And here it definitely fails. So this is probably a possible trade that I missed though. Then prices are continuing moving up. I also realized when it was consolidating right at this price level, there are probably a lot of stop orders right here for people who went short, thinking that this is a second entry short coming back down to touch here. So most likely would have taken them out, and that I think helped drive the momentum up on this big green candle. So kind of lends more credibility that this might have been a worthwhile trade. Prices continue moving up. So I have one touch, two touch, three touch, and then I also have one touch, two touch down here. Moves up, it breaks out. I see an overshoot, but I also see a first entry short. I don't see a good setup. Potential second entry short setting up. Here's a second entry short, but this isn't a very good setup. This isn't a very good signal bar. This is the signal bar. I saw a long trap here. So I just wanted to point this out to myself and for my own future studies. There's a new high here, first entry long. So this candle doesn't make it above here. So first entry long makes a second entry long. So if you decide that this is a valid second entry long, you would have taken, well, if you saw this and you're thinking there's going to be a second entry long and you put your order here, you would have gotten taken and it would have gotten taken out and dropped back down. Because this, although in context is bullish, taking a second entry long here, because when this formed, you're thinking, well, maybe it's going to keep going up, but you're far from the EMA, and it just made an overshoot right here. So when you made an overshoot out of this orange trading range, you have to be careful because it has a tendency to break out to the other side. So taking a second entry long after this overshoot to the high side is a little bit risky. And it kind of played out here. Looks like even if you had a stop way down below this candle or even this candle, you would have gotten taken out. Shoots down. It's kind of confirming this potential trend channel here. I just drew this one overlapping because I wasn't sure if the orange one was still valid. So I drew this one to touch here. Prices go up. It looks like it's respecting some kind of resistance up here, but it also seems to respect this bottom trend line of this trend channel. Prices continue moving up. This is where I take my fifth trade. So zoom in here. I saw this as a potential, like this didn't get back to the EMA, but I did see this a new low, first entry short, second entry short, a potential failed second entry short. And I also saw this pattern seem to repeat what happened here because there's a new low here, first entry short, second entry short failure. So when I saw this first entry short, second entry short failure, I was thinking, wow, that looks pretty similar. So after I saw this first entry short, second entry short, granted, it doesn't form quite as nicely. It didn't go below the EMA. It actually stayed above, but I thought it was a worthwhile trade. So I entered one tick above here. It flashes up and I was able to get my quick scalp. Now I also thought, since this is a trend channel going up, I thought there was a potential sub-trend channel, which is this guy. So at the time I was playing and I kind of drew this guy and I was thinking maybe it's going to touch the high sides, which came out to be, let's see, right there. Let me just correct this for my own future self. There we go. So I saw 2 touches, potentially a third touch here, but I saw 2 touches. It didn't confirm, so it was a little riskier, I'll admit, but I thought I saw a repeat pattern, so I thought it was worth taking a risk. Plus, this candle is it's about only 1.5, so about 5 ticks big, so I thought it was worth the risk. Then it made a new high, first entry long, second entry long, but I don't like the signal bar. And then prices continue chopping, goes into this trading range, and it breaks out. So keep in mind what the overall price action looks like at this point. It had a big sell-off, and now it took back at least 50% of the move. So now I'm not really sure if it's going to go back up or down. But the prices reveal that they break down because there's a new high first entry long. You don't get a second entry long till about right here. And then you get another third entry long, but there's no setup there. I also drew this connecting here to here, but I don't think it's a channel yet. I just kind of noticed it touched once here, touched twice here. So I thought maybe there's something. When I saw this, I just kind of on a whim decided to draw this support, but it doesn't mean I'm going to take a trade off of it. I saw first entry short, second entry short right there. It's a breakout. Prices continue moving. It's chopping. It's 2 sideways. I see a visual second entry short. So what I saw here was it's a new low. It's a first entry short, second entry short, and it's a failure. So what I also thought about was going from this low, it touched nicely here, and touched right here. But it wasn't enough to actually declare that this was in a channel because I don't have any real confirmation at the top. So at the time, I didn't think it was a channel, but it was at least some kind of resistance or support that was being reacted upon that was worthwhile to potentially take a trade. So I also saw the close of this signal bar being so strong that I thought, okay, it's bouncing off this. That's one key entry point. I see a visual new low, first entry short, second entry short, and it's a good signal bar. It's closed above the EMA. So I decided to take a chance. I entered right here and I was able to scalp out here, but my stop was actually right down here. So as you can see, even though I only scalped for 1 point, I was safe on this trade. Not to say that it was a good trade, but this is a kind of an interesting hindsight that I noticed. Also, this gray line here is the low of the pre-market, which is right here. It's the low of the pre-market, and it looked like it was coming back over above it. 'Cause prices now are making higher lows on a bigger time frame. They're all making higher lows. Yes, it came back down slightly lower low, but it's still trying to push its way up. So that kind of gave me a little bit, just in context view, a little bit more confidence that this trade might have been worth taking. But as I get more experience, I might look back upon this and realize that I was probably wrong, or I'm wrong now. But in the moment, I thought this might be worth a trade, so I did take it. The price is going up. I did see this new high here. It's a first entry long, second entry long failure. Now this is actually a decent setup because the failure occurred below the EMA and it had its big overshoots coming back down. The problem with this trade is it's too late in the day because this happened at around 12:50 or 3:50 Pacific 12:50 Pacific Standard, or pretty much almost 4 o'clock Eastern Standard. So it's too late in the day because I don't want to get stuck in a trade, especially when it's going into the close and then have to worry about when the volume drops in the after hours. Am I going to be able to get out of this trade? Because I don't want to hold it overnight. But I did see this trade, and I think in a different time of day, if it set up, I probably would have taken that trade. So that's how I saw the charts today. There are a couple of iffy trades, but I took them and it turned out to work. I had to be careful of those though, because I know those iffy trades could come back and bite me. So hopefully that was helpful.